This is a video entitled Skype versus the Big Four. Now I took all this from their respective websites, so this information is accurate. The only possible inaccuracy is the Skype, and the only reason is because I've got a friend who's on SkypeOut, and they said that their Skype in, SkypeOut combined, they do give you a pretty steep discount of roughly 50%. But I guarantee you it's no more than $60 a year, which is still a lot better than what they're asking from Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile and Sprint. We'll see that in a moment. This is also going to be a little business about how Skype has been pushing for open networks versus the Big Four who don't want that. And again, we'll see that in a moment. So, all of these, with the exception of Sprint, have unlimited minutes. Sprint has 900. Coverage. For Skype, it's all of the US and Canada. Everybody else is the US. I did take a look at the Canada plan for AT&T because I was able to easily find it. I wasn't able to find it for anybody else, so I didn't include it. But I'll talk about that in a moment. Network technology. Wi-Fi, though in some cases Skype can run over 3G, but then again, if you're doing that, you have to put on a data plan for your cell carrier, otherwise it's going to be very expensive, so in the end you're not really saving money. Verizon is CDMA, AT&T GSM, T-Mobile is GSM, and Sprint is CDMA. Price per year. Skype is $30, but again, I don't know if I got the discounts quite right, so it could, but I guarantee you it's no higher than $60 a year. So again, $60 per year. So, you know, that's a lot better than what you're about to see, which is Verizon and AT&T are $1,200 per year, whereas T-Mobile and Sprint are $720 per year. Now let's take a look at this. $1,200 versus $720. There's a $480 difference here. I think I did my math right. Yeah, I did. And even more so, $30 versus $1,200. There is a $1,170 difference between Skype and Verizon. So, I mean, look at these rates. And this is just basic talk. This is not anything else. Look at this. Now, there are a few drawbacks to the Skype service. The biggest of which, as with any VoIP service, voice over internet protocol, is the lack of Wi-Fi hotspots in many areas, or I should say those that do not require internet authentication. Now, it depends on the device you're using. My Wi-Fi phone, you can take a look at my review, IPEVO Wi-Fi phone for Skype. That phone will not accept any authenticated network that requires internet authentication. In other words, you have to log into a browser in order to get into it. So that's a drawback. But more importantly, the other drawback is lack of emergency calling. A lot of VoIP services you cannot make emergency calls with. There are one or two that say you can, but in Skype's case, very clearly on the website at the bottom, it says Skype is not a replacement for an emergency phone. And that makes sense because thanks to the technology used in their data centers, if you call from a Skype number, particularly SkypeOut where the number is randomly generated and you don't have Skype in, or if you do have Skype in and your number's not present and it's not a local number, or it's not a local number, what's going to happen is they're not going to be able to find you, and that's going to be very dangerous. So that is one very serious drawback to Wi-Fi and Skype's service. But still, I mean, let's again compare the rates. $30 a year to $1,200 a year, and $30 a year to $720 a year. I mean, you know, and again, as I said, you know, even if I'm wrong, it's probably more. I'm pretty sure it's no more than $60 a year versus again $1,200 or $720. Now, once they get over this lack of Wi-Fi in a lot of places and the lack of the inability to make emergency calls successfully, I do think the Big Four are going to have something to worry about. Skype has been pushing for open networks for the past 2 years because the way the networks work here in the States, as well as O2 and Vodafone, O2 and Orange in the United Kingdom, Let's take that example, actually, because O2 and Orange, the Nokia N97, which is a flagship device here in the States as well as abroad in the UK, they wanted to bundle Skype onto the Nokia N97. O2 and Orange, which are UK phone carriers, they said no. And the reason is because it would cut back on their profits made when people use their 3G networks to make calls. Same thing is true here in the States. Skype's been pushing for an open network for the past 2 years. Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, and Sprint have been pushing for closed networks. In fact, they're even trying... Verizon's actually under investigation by the FCC because they wanted to up the penalty rates from $170 to $350 for smartphone contract termination. And on top of that, they're trying to tell the FCC that these termination fees in general need to be reinstated as service fees so that the consumer doesn't feel threatened by them. Unfortunately, or actually I should say fortunately, unfortunately for the carriers, consumers are not buying this, and there's a real brouhaha going on right now about this. And again, Skype is among the supporters for an open network. Verizon has actually started this open network initiative by allowing a phone called the Vegas V1, or the Vigus. Is it Vigus or Cygus? I can't remember. It's also called the V phone. It's an Android-based device running 1.6. It's going to be available on their network, but here's the catch. It's not going to wear the Verizon flag. It's not going to wear the Verizon look. It's not going to wear the Verizon software. It's going to be completely open, which means that if you need support, you have to go to you need to go to Cygus for it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Cygus now. Yeah, it is Cygus. So you have to go to Cygus for it. And, you know, and there might not be subsidies, but again, it's still making progress. Because the cell carriers are living in the 1990s. Skype understands this. Now, they want Skype on every handset, which makes sense. But at the same time, pushing for an open network, even if it is to fuel their self-interests, promoting an open network where anybody can put any phone on any network like we can with our landlines, I'm all for it. AT&T, as I understand it, Skype is in the App Store, but on the iPhone side, it's Wi-Fi only. T-Mobile is promoting this in some way with their hotspot at home, and I have no idea what Sprint's doing. So we're making some progress, but at the same time, they're still closed up. They're still in this power struggle to keep you as a customer, basically to take away your freedoms in many ways in terms of choice and give you these high rates just to fill their pockets. I'd like to see Skype succeed. I think they are starting to succeed. I'd like to see them succeed further and get us to the point where we don't have to worry about networks and phones anymore. AT&T and T-Mobile, being that they're GSM carriers, you can lock a European phone onto their GSM networks. The catch is that 3G is not going to work in the States on AT&T. So that's another example of lockdown. But even with the GSM AT&T phones, they are still locked down through software. You can hack them to get unlocked, but, you know, they only do that after a certain time period, which basically all it rolls down to is they want to keep you a customer and keep you paying these outlandish rates. And again, Skype's pushing for open network. I'm all for that. And once we get around the citywide Wi-Fi and the emergency calling problem, this $30 a year, $30 or $60 a year rate versus $1,200 is really looking promising. And these four, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, and Sprint, are going to have something to worry about. Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome. Insults against me will get you blocked, and have a nice day.